Hi YouTube, we're gonna try this again. I had a video I posted for today, but anyways, sometimes you don't know. You still don't, even though you part of social media for so long, you think you know all the rules. No, I don't know everything about YouTube. Apparently, that one video I can't watch certain things, certain shows or things, because they could be copyrighted unless you have permission for certain things. Which I understand that, dude. Certain Twitch and other things that I deal with already, but that was just weird in general. So. Part 19 would be the mall. I'll just not redo it. If it messes up, I'll just not redo it again. I'll just do it the next day, whatever. So this will be out tomorrow. Probably be like 7 in the morning since I'll be asleep. I like put it in the morning. So this is every final boss ranked from the easiest to the hardest in Resident Evil series. If you love the Resident Evil series and you know number 9 is coming out in February, which would be one of the games you will be getting, besides the other Dark Picture game in February, January, February is coming out. We're going to try to get back to Resident Evil eventually, but anyways, if you like that series, you probably agree to disagree maybe with this list. I'm excited. There will be somebody else talking here. I will pause it to say if I agree or disagree with them. There's the top 13 basically. I thought it was so funny. The numbers are 13. It's 28 minutes, so it's be a longer video again, reaction video made for them all. I want to see if I agree or disagree on this with them because I know what bosses are hard, and I played a lot of the games too, so I kind of know where I feel about bosses, and I'm gonna see if I agree or disagree with some of them because I feel like some bosses might be easier. But it depends on if this boss, if people are playing this on easy mode or hard mode or whatever. If you're playing on harder mode, yeah, of course these bosses will be hard. But there's also these are the final bosses too. So let's see what they have in this ranking of 13 because there's so many of them in so many games. But we're gonna watch this and see what we got.
Number 13, Evelyn, Resident Evil 7.
Ew.
I don't know. I feel like Evelyn wasn't really a fight, to be honest. I disagree with this one. This is top. It's probably the hardest, or they're saying the easiest. I think they're going easiest to hardest. Okay, so they're going from the easiest. Okay, I agree with this then. Yeah, Evelyn was the easy boss. Like they didn't even because they let up. You did a few other bosses that were hard, but the final boss they really made her not that hard. I mean, basically you could just kind of shoot a few times and then freeze and then kill her. So it wasn't that hard. So this is they're going from the easiest to hardest. This was an easy one. I could see why it's number 13 on the list, not top 1. I'm excited to see what top 1 is. But this one, yeah, I definitely see why it's easier because it really was a hard boss for me. No matter what mode you're on, it's not that hard to fight a little thing in the air going like this and everything. So, you know.
It hurts! It hurts! It hurts!
There was a grandma all along that was possessed by who was
Resident
Evelyn.
Evil 7 may have had some of the most difficult boss fights in the form of Marguerite and Jack Baker. But the fact is that the game dropped the ball for the final confrontation against Evelyn. Considering that Evelyn had the ability to create hallucinations and is the cause of all the monsters that you face off against in Resident Evil 7, you would think that Evelyn's final fight would be pretty massive.
Right,
You're
exactly.
left extremely disappointed throughout the entire encounter with
Makes
Evelyn.
us very
The
disappointed.
first phase of the fight, if you can call it that, starts off with Ethan walking towards Evelyn as she continues to force you back. Once Ethan reaches her though, the second phase starts. This phase closely mimics another final boss fight in the series, Final Stage Birkin. Evelyn becomes a giant monster molded face, and as she slowly moves across the room, Ethan must unload his weapons into her until she's defeated. As long as the player continues to fire at Evelyn while keeping their distance, this is a simple phase to complete. Then Evelyn pulls out one last shitty trump card, Stage 3. Unfortunately, this stage is just as bad as the rest. For this final part, Chris throws down a weapon for Ethan to use. Evelyn grabs a hold of Ethan, and once again, Ethan must shoot Evelyn until she dies. This concludes the final boss encounter in Resident Evil 7. Despite the huge lead up to this final confrontation, you're left with what appears less as a fight and more of an interactive scene at best.
Yeah, Resident wasn't a fight, I agree. Wasn't the greatest
Number
fight,
12,
they could have done better.
Final Stage Birkin, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Oh, okay. Hey, you only get this if you go the wrong path. There's 2 choices for this. I can see why this one. I agree with this one. This one was definitely down
after I
on
brought
the
it
list.
up in the last entry, but of course, Final Stage Birkin is the next one up on this list. What's pretty funny about this is if the game just ended with Mr. X or Phase 4 Birkin for each playthrough's final boss, then they would probably rank much higher on this list. Unfortunately though, Birkin had just one last pitiful attack against Leon and Claire. Resident Evil 2 is unique from a lot of the entries on this list as it gives you two halves of the same game with different characters. Now, the original is somewhat different as Scenario A character faces off against Birkin near the end, while Scenario B character
it's rough at times, but it's really not hard.
It's changed to just Leon versus Mr. X and Claire versus Birkin.
You just have to avoid them,
Still,
that's all.
regardless of what game you go with here, the true final boss of the entire game is Final Stage Birkin. This takes place on the second run or Scenario B situation where the character will face off against Birkin one last time while on the train. Similar to Evelyn, Birkin basically becomes a blob on one side of the train. As this monstrosity moves closer and closer to the player, they must once again unload any sort of weapons they have left against Birkin. The only reason why I rank this encounter slightly higher than Evelyn's fight comes down to the limited resources of Resident Evil 2. By the time you reach Evelyn, you're usually pretty loaded when it comes to ammo. However, when it comes to Final Stage Birkin, you probably spend most of your resources dealing with Mr. X or Stage 4 Birkin, with the latter taking the most ammo to put down. Because of that, there is a slight possibility that you could have backed yourself into a very difficult position against Final Stage Birkin to the point where you have no ammo to put him down.
I agree with that.
In that situation, you have to rely on your knife.
It's hard when you play these games to have any ammo left.
Still, as long as your aim isn't horrible and you didn't screw up badly prior to this point, it's highly unlikely that you end up
definitely going to have very much ammo
left.
Plus,
I put a poll out on the channel a couple months ago, and it seems like most of you guys agree with me in saying that Final Stage Birkin is slightly harder than Evelyn. So that's that, I guess.
It is harder than Evelyn.
In a moment, Todd's mom will read her son's internet browsing history.
What?
ExpressVPN apps keep your activity and identity private while you...
Forgot this ads again. I'll have to keep an eye on that.
Number 11, T002 Tyrant, Resident Evil and Resident Evil Remake.
Okay, so I haven't got all the way to the Tyrant, and I think that fans would probably say Tyrant wasn't that hard. That's why it's number 11 on the list. Because it's definitely harder than Evelyn and Birkin, but it's definitely not like top tier.
When looking at most people's lists for difficult bosses, for some reason I always seem to see this one crack their top 10. But here's the thing, I don't see him being that difficult in the slightest. Hell, I would argue that he's one of the easiest boss fights in the entire series, which is a big part as to why we find him near the bottom of this list.
Right.
The T002 Tyrant is the final boss in both the original game and the remake of Resident Evil. In my opinion, the original game is a little more difficult than the remake's version. Regardless, neither are that challenging. You come across T002 twice in both versions of Resident Evil. The first time is in the lab after he takes out Wesker. This version of him is the easier fight as he walks extremely slow. As long as the player keeps their distance, it's fairly simple to take them out. The second fight is definitely more difficult as this time he can move a lot faster and do some lunge attacks that will send the player flying. However, once again, just continue to move around and use your best weapons. Eventually, Brad will toss down a rocket launcher and then you'll be able to finish him once and for all. Yet, it could even get easier for the player. See, the second phase of this fight could be skipped completely.
Oh, really?
If you manage to let either Barry or Rebecca die and then refuse to rescue Chris or Jill, then you would skip the entire second phase.
Damn,
so between
that's
the
awful.
option of to
kill people just to
get
get
the first phase being
past
a
this
walk
part
in the park, we find T002 at the bottom of this list despite it being our first encounter with the iconic Tyrant.
Ah, makes sense. Alice Wesker.
Number 10, Alex Wesker, Resident Evil Revelations.
Top 10, I see why. But I feel like she was difficult. I always have struggle with her though. I really do feel like she's a struggle. I see like it's on top 10, but I would put her like 5 or 6, a little more higher, because she is rough as fuck to actually deal with. So, kind of disagree that it's 10. I think it should be like 5 or 6,
so while
a little higher,
because
she was rough as fuck to play.
She's not really all that difficult, hence why we find her near the bottom of this list. Depending on the playthrough, Alex could have 1 or 2 phases. Phase 1 is the only somewhat difficult phase here. In this phase, Alex just crawls around the entire area as she attacks both Barry and Natalia. Mainly, she uses one of 2 different attacks. Either she'll take some swipes at you with her arms, or she'll spit poisonous gas at you. But really, neither of these attacks are that difficult to dodge. When she sticks her head out of a vent, just move around before she shoots you with her acid. Then just avoid that dark smoke that appears. As for her normal attacks, she's kind of slow. Like, really slow. So if you just keep moving and then shooting at her, then she should be pretty easy to put down. Her weak spot is a little hard to hit, and sometimes she'll make a run after Natalia, but as long as you keep firing at her while also paying close attention to her movements, then this should be one of the easier final boss fights. Phase 2 is even easier as it pretty much just
phase 2 of her was
with a sniper
actually
rifle
pretty easy.
and then running away. Simple as that.
Yeah, I like phase 2. Phase 2 was so easy. Oh, really?
Number 9,
6 bosses.
Simmons, House, and Ustanok.
Oh, they put 3 together. Okay. Yeah, I can see this at 9. Because those bosses were interesting
Back
for
for
number
more.
6 for sure.
God, I hope I pronounced that correctly. So Resident Evil 6 is really unique when it comes to the final bosses. That's because technically there are 3 major boss fights for this game. Unlike something like Resident Evil 2 that has 2 campaigns but a final boss fight at the end of the entire game, Resident Evil 6 has 3 campaigns, with each of them having a unique final boss
4
fight.
campaigns
Technically,
actually. No, 3.
4, but one
Yeah.
of those connects to a boss fight that I just mentioned earlier. So, for example, with the
I
last campaign you
see.
get Simmons, Chris, you get House.
Okay, I see why they say it's not 4 because it connects, but it's fine if it connects. It doesn't matter. It's still 4 campaigns. You can't say it's only 3. It's only 3 campaigns because the boss fight is the same. It doesn't matter about the boss fight. There's a different. It's connection to the other stories. All 4 of them connect. Basically, you could say there's one boss fight, the 3 bosses in it, but all 4 of them the campaigns connect. But it's still 4 campaigns. You cannot just throw it to the side and say it's not campaign because there's a similar boss fight. It's still its own campaign, and you do different things you would do in the other 3 campaigns with the campaign that it is. So I disagree that it's not. There's not 4 campaigns. It actually is 4 campaigns. Now these bosses are fucking rough for this shit. I played Resident Evil 6 and I love Resident Evil 6.
And with Jake, you get Ustanok. So
And
really,
it used
there
to
are
be
3
people would be
unique
like
final boss fights in the
Resident
game
Evil
alone.
5.
With that being said, I feel like they are all kind of
Resident Evil
side by
5
side
and
with
6
each
were
other.
hated,
Like if I
but
were to
people
rank
have
them
said,
individually, they would
now
be up
it's
on this
like,
list
oh, Resident
one
Evil
after
6
each
is the only
other.
one
So I
hated.
figured it would just
Resident
be
Evil 6
easier
has
to
always been
combine
hated,
them
but
all.
I love it. I
Simmons
think
is
people
probably the most
misjudge
difficult
this
of the
game.
3 as his
All of
fight
them are
just
great.
continues to go
And if
on
they ever
and
remake
on
5
and
and 6,
on. While
which
none
they
of
probably
his
will
phases
do,
are
people will be
extremely
very
hard,
happy
the amount
with
of
it, probably,
transformations
to be
this guy
honest.
has is just extremely ridiculous. House technically has 1 major phase, however, it does involve a section where Chris and Pierce have to outrun him. This section can be a pain to deal with thanks to the poor
100%.
camera angles, but ultimately once you get the hang of it,
pain.
facing House isn't too bad.
I
Finally,
died so
there's
many
Ustanok,
times.
which of the 3 turns
So
out to
many
be
times.
the easiest fight in my opinion. His fight against Jake
never
and
played
Sherry
his
when they
campaign
team up
yet, so I
with
can't tell you.
Leon and Helena is arguably more difficult than his final phase. This fight takes place over a pool of lava. Just like every boss fight in the series, provide consistent damage while keeping your distance, and it shouldn't be that hard to beat him. Eventually, you'll end up in a phase that turns into a Bruce Lee movie, as Jake will rely on a bunch of quick time events to dodge and attack Ustanok until the fight ends, but yeah, that's basically it. Number 8, Osmond Saller, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Well, it's not too bad. I can see why Tyler's top 8, but I don't think that he's too bad. I played him before. He's not that bad, to be honest.
Forsaken. Holy body.
For the most part, taking on Saddler in both the remake and the original is extremely similar to each other. If I had to pick one that was more difficult, then I would probably give it slightly to the remake's version due to the flying enemies getting in your way and that you can't always
the
rely on
remake
quick
is a
time
lot
events
harder
to dodge
than
every
the
attack.
original, to be
So with that
honest.
in mind, let's focus primarily on the remake's encounter with him. Just like many final bosses of Resident Evil, Saddler comes in 2 phases. However, it's phase 1 that provides the most difficulty in beating him. After transforming, you'll see that Saddler has grown giant eyeballs all over him. If you know anything about Resident Evil, my friends, then you should know that giant eyeballs
At least you get to run
usually
around
mean weak
against
spots.
the boss.
As Leon, the player must shoot each weak spot. Only after destroying all the eyeballs on Saddler will he fall and reveal yet another eyeball for you to do some major damage to by stabbing or shooting with
You want to have a
powerful
lot of
bullets.
ammo at
However,
this final
Saddler
boss, to
in
be
his
honest.
first phase proves to be quick on his feet,
You really
considering
do.
that he can leap long distances and travel across the battlefield in seconds. As I mentioned earlier, there are those flying bug-like enemies attacking you as well, which I highly recommend putting them down first as they will annoy you a lot more than Saddler will. 2 other things to keep an eye out for when dealing with this phase are his long-range attacks of shooting acid at the player and to be aware of which areas Sadler destroys so you don't find yourself backed up in the corner. Phase 2 I won't talk about too much, as it's pretty much, once again, just unloading your weapons on him. Then you'll have to grab the red rocket launcher and shoot it at him.
Exactly.
And that, my friend, will bring it in to Osmond Sadler.
That's not, yeah, the second phase is not that
Number
hard.
7, Queen Leech, Resident Evil 0.
Oh yeah, I've never.
Which one of us is gonna die?
Yeah, the final boss. Zero's the only one I've never been to the final boss, and 1 isn't either. But I've been really close to the end of 0. I mean 1. So, but 0 I've only been to like the second level. I haven't finished yet because it's that difficult. And I think I accidentally reset the save, so now I have to restart the whole game. The controls are rough. I like to see a remake eventually of 0, so I could be able to play it more better. So they got remaster like basically. I think it's a remaster, not a remake, but remaster. 1 got a remake, I think it is, but it wasn't a great remake because they didn't mess with the controls much. So 1 and 0 I like to see remakes of, so it'll be able to control it a lot better, like 2, 3, and 4. But so I don't know how this boss would be. I can't rank this one, to be honest. Oh damn. It's like a centipede.
Resident Evil 0 is regarded as one of the most difficult Resident Evil games. With the limited resources and difficult enemies, you'll find that this game can be pretty hard to complete. Even so, the boss fights in this game are some of the easiest of the franchise. Still, there is one boss in this game that poses a threat to the player. Enter the Queen Leech. This final boss comes in 2 phases. Phase 1 is fairly simple. Keep your distance, as always, run around the map, fire off grenades and magnum ammo, and you should be good. The only somewhat annoying part with this phase is the fixed camera angles. Because of how the camera is set up for most of the battle area,
it's hard
to see
so
when
the
and where the
angles
Queen
will
Leech shows
camera
up.
angles will be a lot better.
Ultimately though, it's phase 2 that provides the biggest challenge. In this phase, you play as Billy in an attempt to hold off the Queen Leech, while Rebecca focuses on opening the ceiling. Really, this phase poses 2 challenging obstacles for the players. 1, the Queen Leech is massive and can easily push Billy into a corner. In this position, you can find yourself getting stuck and pretty much destroyed by the Queen Leech. The bigger issue though is that if you're not careful, the Queen Leech can find its way to Rebecca instead and kill her. Between trying to protect her while also trying to avoid getting trapped in a corner, this final boss could prove to be a little more troublesome than you may have expected after playing through some of the easiest boss fights of the series in this game.
Yeah, these are pretty top
Number 6,
ranked.
Mother Miranda, Resident Evil Village.
Yeah, she's definitely top 6 up there. I agree. Miranda is really fucking hard as fuck. I don't understand her boss fight at all, and it drives me nuts when I played it before. So definitely Resident Evil 8
loves Mother
boss
Miranda
fight Miranda
or her
is
backstory
really
that connects
hard
to
as
Spencer.
fuck.
However, I feel like we could at least agree that she's still one of the more challenging final bosses in Resident Evil.
Really challenging.
Mother Miranda is mainly difficult due to the amount of attacks that she has compared to other boss fights on this list. On the ground, she's able to travel long distances and use her wings as weapons to attack Ethan. Sometimes by moving away from her, you can dodge her attacks, but most times it's usually easiest just to block her attacks if you don't think you can get away fast enough. Keep in mind that she attacks quickly, so as soon as she begins, be sure to decide fast as to how you plan on preventing any major damage. Eventually, she'll start flying and attacking that way, which makes it harder to hit her. However, as long as you keep blocking and firing when you're safe, then you should be fine. But, as I said, she has other attacks that you'll need to react to quickly. For example, she can summon globs of goo above her. When she does this, you'll need to destroy these globs as soon as possible or you'll suffer the consequences. Add those attacks to stuff like her leaping attack or her attack in the darkness, and you could find yourself in trouble if you're not careful. The most important part in this fight is to keep moving and find the right moments to attack, the right moments to block, and the right moments to run away. Otherwise, especially on the Village of Shadows difficulty, she'll drain your health quickly and you'll find yourself dying.
Yep, that's why I don't play really hard
Number
mode.
5,
Unless I
Albert
really
Wesker,
have to.
Resident Evil 5.
I don't know because I think I didn't get. I didn't finish.
I should have killed you years ago. Chris.
Finally,
Yeah, I haven't gotten to. Okay, so in 5, I've gotten pretty far, but then I got stuck in the puzzle, and then my save got kind of messed up on that too. but that was years ago, and I never finished this one. So I never got into Ever Whisker. He's another boss fight. I've got all the way to. So I don't know how difficult he is. I can't say yes or no, but I'm sure he's hard as fuck because he was really fast. I've been told really hard and fast.
Get the most iconic villain in Resident Evil, Albert Wesker. In Resident Evil 5, you face off against Wesker multiple times. In the Lost in Nightmares DLC, the 2v2 match against Jill and Wesker, and then you get the final fight, which really consists of 3 stages. Stage 1 starts off with using a rocket launcher to deal damage to Wesker. The players must run around the area, shut off lights, and then while one player distracts Wesker, the other must take their shot at him. Since we're only taking a look at these games from the perspective of playing it on single player, this fight becomes slightly more difficult. Although I will say the AI isn't that terrible at this part. Usually it's easiest to just hand your partner the rocket and just try to distract Wesker long enough for her to get a good shot at him. Even if she does miss, thankfully she'll go and reload the rocket herself. The real issue with this method is that your AI partner tends to be slow at helping you do the combo attack that finishes the fight. Still, this part doesn't provide too much trouble. And since phase 2 is just multiple quick time events, you'll have no problem there either. It's really phase 3 that can prove to be really challenging on single player. Here you're battling in the middle of a volcano. After running away and pulling off that boulder smash moment, you'll find yourself facing off against Wesker in a small little area. The issue here is that you need to find a way to get behind him in order to hit his weak spot. Considering that your AI partner runs everywhere that you do, it becomes a little more challenging than you think. Add that to the fact that if you get too close to the edge and Wesker takes a shot at you or your partner, then it could mean instant death. This final boss fight finds itself on the top 5 because of how much more difficult it is to face him when trying to use a helpless AI as your partner, while also trying to get behind him and hit one of his weak spots.
I understand that, for sure.
Number 4, Nemesis Final Stage, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
So the classic. They don't talk about Resident Evil 3 Remake up there.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
You may or may not have noticed by now, but most of the time I included the remake and the original game in the same spot when dealing with the numbered entries of the series. However, Resident Evil 3 is different. Resident Evil 1, 2, and 4 share roughly the same difficulty level as the remakes. But I feel like Resident Evil 3 stands apart from each other enough to the point that they deserve their own entries on this list.
Makes sense.
Of the original 3 games, I find the third entry to be the hardest one. And while the puzzles are definitely harder in this entry and the regular enemies are more aggressive in this game, it's really because of Nemesis why this game is so damn hard. Nemesis is, well, he's persistent. Basically, Capcom took Mr. X and put him on steroids to the point where he can now run at us throughout the entire game. And at certain points of the game, you are forced to confront him instead of running away. One such moment is, of course, the final fight with him. After he becomes a blob-like monster and has become stronger after feeding on the body of a tyrant, Nemesis is now ready to give the player everything he has left. In the area, the player must push 3 batteries to activate the railgun. What's different here is that Nemesis moves around similar to how Stage 4 Dog Birkin moves in Resident Evil 2. He'll jump on platforms around you and then leap towards you, potentially trapping you in a corner or against a wall. On top of that, he sprays acid at the player while also allowing vines on his back to deal damage as you try to run past him. Eventually, once you get the railgun shot into him, Nemesis goes down. Still, between the long-range acid attacks, the leaping attacks that help him get into position to trap you, and the fact that he has attacks that can hit you even from behind are just a few reasons why Final Stage Nemesis makes it to the number 4 spot on this list.
I can see why. Sure, I haven't played any of the
Number
originals
3,
except for 4.
Alexia Ashford, Resident Evil.
For all my friends playing this tonight. I haven't played Veronica X. Because it's not remade or anything, and you can't find anywhere to play it, to be honest. Some people just use emulator for that, but it's hard to find, for sure, to play these days. Once you have the original
Just
game.
like what I said about Resident Evil 0, Code Veronica is one of the hardest Resident Evil games. Unlike Resident Evil 0 though, this game features a ton of difficult bosses. From the airplane fight against the Tyrant to the fight on the rooftop against Nosferatu. Each boss fight proves to be a very challenging one. And the final boss fight of the game against Alexia to finish it,
I don't like time limit.
While technically the player faces her a total of 3 times, as Chris, we are only focusing on the final 2 phases.
Fans think maybe this will be a remake in the future.
Alexia starts off attacking Claire,
definitely
where
see
Chris
that
must
happening.
immediately shoot Alexia or
job.
she'll instantly kill Claire and calls a game over. After which, Alexia will become a massive stationary beast that uses vines, acid, and small insects to attack Chris.
Definitely a top 4.
This stage isn't as difficult as the next phase, however it can prove to be extremely annoying if the player can't get into a decent enough position to deal damage without constantly being whipped by her vines or attacked by her insects. Phase 2 of this fight is where things take a turn for the worse. Alexia transforms into a flying queen ant-like creature. From here, she's able to fly around and shoot acid at the player, which makes it extremely hard to hit her. Luckily, the linear launcher has officially charged and is now able to be used against Alexia, which is great because one shot will kill Alexia. Unfortunately, unlike every other in-game weapon that's thrown at you during the final phase of the final boss fight, this one isn't as easy to hit your target with. First, the launcher shoots in first person, but what really makes it challenging is Alexia's movements. She'll continue to fly back and forth all over the map as you try to hit her, while all at the same time she's shooting acid at you. All you need is one hit to connect, but funny enough, that's easier said than done.
Yeah,
Eventually,
I can see why it's difficult.
You'll make contact with the launcher and you'll defeat Alexia once and for all. Still, don't underestimate her. Her first phase will deal a lot of damage if you're unable to get through it quickly, and phase 2 could take a lot longer than you think for a shot to connect with her. Number 2, Nemesis final stage, Resident Evil 3 Remake.
I don't think he's that hard, to be honest.
Just so you know, this is the last fucking time.
I find this one not
Nemesis
actually pretty
strikes
easy.
Again. As I said earlier,
I don't think it's top 2. I think it's not that rough, actually, to be honest.
The point where the
so I disagree with this.
Each deserve
I
their
don't
own
think
entry.
it's top 2.
However,
Maybe like top 5 or 4.
Version of this final fight that really just
but it's not as rough
as
people put it.
Especially
Should
when
be
we take a
not
look
top
at
2.
Inferno mode. Actually, if we compare this final fight of Nemesis from the original game to any other difficulty in the remake, then I would argue that the original is definitely harder. However, it's Inferno mode specifically that pushes this fight into a broken disaster. I guess I should start off with how the fight goes. It's technically in 2 phases, where phase 1 involves fighting Nemesis while also dealing with
this one could be difficult trying to get him while he's running around all the time. It's so fucking annoying.
Your job here is to shoot the switches of the device that Nemesis is on, causing him to be electrocuted. However, in phase 2, Nemesis has become a giant blob monster, just like almost every other final boss in a Resident Evil game. And I mean, when I say blob monster,
whoever
I mean
plays Inferno, the hardest will definitely probably have fucking
attacks that sweeps all over the entire battle area. The only way to dodge these attacks is with Jill's perfect dodge mechanics. And let me tell you, even with that STARS combat manual that you have, you're still going to need to time these dodges perfectly. Your goal is to hit the weak spots on Nemesis. Once all the weak spots are down, Nemesis will briefly be inactive. At this point, you have to use this time to push in batteries. Once all the batteries are in, you'll be able to use the railgun.
He doesn't make it easy either, especially in the hardest
in order to defeat Nemesis. But even though this sounds simple enough, it's not. Those attacks from Nemesis will almost instantly kill you if you are hit, and they probably will kill you if you don't have the coins attached. Plus, if you get too close to him while he's active, then he'll instantly kill you there too. So like I said, perfect dodge is required for this fight, which is exactly why a lot of gamers get really frustrated when dealing with Nemesis on Inferno. Though it's a short fight, not figuring out the timing of your dodges will easily spell game over for you every single time, so good luck.
What's the top 1?
Number 1, Ultimate Abyss, Resident Evil
Oh, okay, I haven't... Why I don't remember this boss? Did I get to the end of this game? Maybe I didn't ever beat Revelation 1, because I thought I did. I thought I said I'd beaten it.
Stop! Morgan isn't here!
It's no use. He's gone over the edge.
Yeah, I don't remember. So I don't think I got to the end of it. To be honest. So I can't tell you if it's hard or not.
Catches me off guard. Not because Revelations is an easy game, but just that I didn't expect it to be the one with the hardest final boss of a mainline Resident Evil game. Still, when you take the Tyrant and give them some overpowered abilities, then you really shouldn't be too surprised to find him ranked as number 1 on this list. As I mentioned, Ultimate Abyss takes a similar shape as the iconic boss in Resident Evil games, a Tyrant. Only this time he can do much more than just charge at you with his claws. Jack Norman, the man that becomes Ultimate Abyss, has 2 unique abilities that really make him stand out. The first one is the ability to teleport. Like I said, we've seen similar bosses to this one before.
This is later at night.
Usually they'll charge at the players with their claws.
It's gonna be darker.
Norman will do the same, however, he can also just teleport behind you and begin his attack that way. And when he combines it with his other ability, he becomes a truly terrifying monster to deal with. His second ability allows him to create fake clones of himself. By doing this, he can lead you on and make you think that he's coming after you in one way when in actuality, he's right behind you. When making his attacks against you, the easiest way to stop him is by hitting his weak spot, the heart on his chest. But as always, that's easier said than done. As the fight goes on, eventually he'll start to use his clone ability to throw you off while he begins his attack. For example, he might teleport in a half circle around you with two clones alongside him. Right before his attack lands, you have to hit his weak spot. His weak spot only appears briefly and quickly right before his attack lands. This means that you need to hurry up and aim at that weak spot as soon as it appears to stop his attack. If you fail at doing this, then you will receive massive damage, especially on the harder difficulty.
Damn.
Both
Yeah,
this
I can
fight
see that.
and the final stage Nemesis on Inferno proved to be some of the most challenging and difficult final boss fights.
I can see why.
And ironically, both challenge the players with
Yeah, 'cause
memorizing
these bosses
the
I won't know
enemy's
till I
attacks
get there.
and nailing the timing of those
But
attacks.
we are definitely
For me
gonna be all
personally,
Resident
I've
Evil games
decided
on
to put
stream.
Ultimate Abyss as the hardest final boss, mainly due to his attacks being a little more unpredictable and harder to dodge, but I can easily see a case for either of these two being the hardest final boss in the series. But that does it for this episode of Nerd Space Games. Put up the comments and let me know what you think about my list. Do you think Ultimate Abyss is the hardest final boss?
Some
Do
I
you think
agree
that
with and
Evelyn
some I
is the
disagree.
easiest final boss? Let me know
sure
down
there's
below.
more out there,
Anyway, if you
people
haven't already, be sure to subscribe for
that
more Ranking videos.
agree
like
to
this one,
disagree, and also
especially
there's
if you
probably
love
more.
Resident Evil.
There are more
But thanks
than
for watching,
13.
and as always, guys, I'll
There's
catch
so
you
many
on the
bosses,
next
so they
episode
probably
of Nerd
curate.
Space Games. Take care.
I'm gonna keep eye on this guy. He seems like he does a really good job of ranking stuff. But yeah, that's the video, chat. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope there'll be no problem with this. This is a longer video, and it'll be out tomorrow, probably around like 7 a.m. in the morning. I'll schedule it for 7 a.m. so I'm gonna sleep. You guys can enjoy the video. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.